Welcome to CGTN's various online platforms. This is Guy Henderson reporting for you from a place called the Pengsheng Industrial Park. It is a spot about 80 kilometers outside the capital of Uzbekistan, Tashkent, and it is about a 1 square kilometer complex. This complex is essentially a special economic zone. It was set up by the Pengsheng Trading Company back in 2009. That is a Chinese private company which invested something like $99.4 million in this complex, and it essentially houses a series of companies, 16 companies at the moment. Some of them are Chinese companies, some of them are joint Uzbek and Chinese, joint ventures between Chinese and Uzbek companies. And it's basically a special economic zone, a model at the time which has since been replicated, basically allowing these companies to operate and build economic ties between the two countries. It offers various incentives, various tax breaks. The bigger the investment, the bigger the tax break, essentially. And we're here to firstly just show you around this whole space, and a little bit later on we'll explain to you why this is relevant to a wider international audience. So let me take you inside. It's going to get a bit noisy. We have a gentleman here who's going to show us around. This is one of the 16 companies, and we'll then be taking you around this complex and showing you what else is on offer here, and just discussing a little bit of the relevance as well. So I'm going to introduce you, and just to sort of let you know as well, we have in our midst a whole team behind the camera. We have a manager who I'll introduce you to in a second, who's going to show us around. But we have various languages in operation in this little group. I'll be speaking English. I don't speak Mandarin, but that is, part of the language is spoken here. So we have a Mandarin translator who can step in if and when that's needed. And then we have somebody here who can speak Uzbek and Russian as well. So a whole team of experts and translators from different countries and regions. And hopefully we'll try and muddle through all the different languages and keep it as simple and as clear as possible, mainly in the English language, considering it is an English language news channel. So let me introduce you to our first guest, Mr. Hu Jinfu, who is the manager of this first of 16 companies. AWP is the name, is that right? And a Chinese company?
AWP 位于有限公司。
So AWP is, I believe, a company that is partly Chinese and partly Uzbek as well.
Yes.
Okay.
乌兹别克卫浴有限公司在中国的公司是由温州坚盛贸易有限公司投资，占乌兹别克 AWP 卫浴有限公司50%的股份。
So for our Chinese audience, they will have been able to understand that. What we'll have to do is keep walking. to where we are at the moment. We are standing in the Pengsheng Industrial Park, 80 kilometers southwest of the Uzbek capital, Tashkent. I'm standing with Mr. Pengsheng, who is the manager of a Chinese-Uzbek joint project, which is one of the companies, one of the 16 companies hosted on this giant industrial park, which is essentially a free economic zone partnership, private sector partnership supported by the governments of both Uzbekistan and China. AWP is your company, sir. Perhaps you could just walk us in and just briefly introduce us. We've got a bit of a juggle with languages here. We have English, Uzbek, Russian, Mandarin obviously as well. Just in very simple terms, what are we looking at here?
Our factory products faucets.
Okay. These are taps.
Yes.
Taps for the bathroom.
Yes.
Okay. So, we are now just going to begin by walking you around and showing you the production process here. In play, this is a huge warehouse. The whole space is perhaps 1 kilometer squared, and this is just one of 16 companies that operate here. And you'll see this is one of how many workers here?
Our factory has 290 people.
Okay, 290 workers, all with slightly different skill sets. These faucets, from what I can see, are... What exactly is happening here? Let's stand back from this man so we don't get hit with a hammer. So part of the production process here going on all the way down this factory line. I'm sure we're going to see more of that production process. Perhaps we can have a further look down. Okay, so here we go. So these are the parts, yes?
Yes.
Okay, for the faucet. Okay. Where do the copper, where does it come from?
Amalek, our Uzbek company.
From Uzbekistan?
Yes.
Okay. So Uzbek copper, 290 employees. How many are Chinese? How many from Uzbekistan?
Now is 20 people from China.
Okay.
Uzbek is 270.
Okay. So mostly from Uzbekistan. Okay. So that is one of the main ideas of this industrial project, or certainly what the companies involved, the governments who have backed it, are keen to show, is that this is, in that cliched term, perhaps a win-win situation. Yes, China wants to make money. These are big investments coming from private companies in China who are interested in using a relatively cheap workforce here to produce products, some of which have components that come from China, some of which source their copper and some of their raw materials from inside Uzbekistan themselves. But then there is, also a big employment benefit, or that's certainly what these companies are playing up. The vast majority of this particular company's workforce is made up of locals from Uzbekistan, in a region that before this site was built, and really it's a pretty remote area we drove through to get to this 1 kilometre space, would, I imagine, have been, struggling to find other forms of work. We know that agriculture is one of the main forms of income here, so perhaps that would have been the work on offer. But certainly, from the Uzbek point of view, this is why they are interested in this big complex being built. And you'll see all the way down the factory line now, and perhaps we can just ask our general manager here what we're looking at now. These are still taps?
Yes.
Okay. And these are for Uzbekistan. Where do these go? Uzbekistan.
Yes.
Okay. How many do you sell in 1 year?
2 million.
2 million.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of taps being sold here. So this is just one of the companies, and we can probably look over here as well, different aspects of the production process. This company, I'm told, is now selling its products around the world, as far as Homebase, which is a huge hardware and homeware company in the United Kingdom. So this is not just regional trade and production, this is spanning the entire world. So we will thank our manager of AWP. Thank you very much indeed for having us. But we're not over yet. We're going to keep walking. We're going to take our entire crew with us. And we're going to, thank you very much indeed for your time. Okay. Now we're going to walk you at some pace, probably, back out of this factory. And we're going to take you on a walk around the rest of this complex. 1 square kilometre, 16 companies in total here. Not all of them, none of them, I think it should be pointed out, none of them are solely Uzbek companies. Tells you a little bit perhaps about, China. This was a project set up by China, by a Chinese company, and with profit in mind, not necessarily an altruistic idea, but certainly on top of the Chinese companies that exist here, we have partnerships, several partnerships between Uzbek. I imagine the camera lens is going to be quite hard work for the cameraman now. But yeah, a lot of partnerships between Uzbek and Chinese companies, and the whole idea, as well as these companies making a profit, is to add value to the local economy, add employment, source some of their products locally. So we're now going to hop into the back of this golf cart with our whole band. We are going to go with our translation team, and we're going to hop into the back of the golf buggy and take you on the journey. Hang on, I will sit further up front. If everybody hops in now, no, we're still live. Company that we've seen, and we're now driving through this complex. So we'll get the camera to look around this 1 square kilometre complex, and as I say, 16 companies here, and I mean pretty much everything you need to live off exists in this complex. We have everything from all the staff are housed here. We've seen many of their family members, both the Chinese and Uzbek staff, have their family members here. It's got an electricity substation. It's got swimming pools. We were even given a real show by the management here. The kindergarten, which hosts the kids for these young people. We have a little interference with our microphone. Yeah, I'll keep talking. I hope our audience can still hear us. We're making our way now to the second site, the second company of 16. And I was just talking you through the expanse of this project. And maybe we can just move the camera off me for a bit and just have a look around. As I was saying, football pitches, swimming pools, all kinds of facilities that the company have been keen to show off for us. There's 1,500 people or so in total employed across this complex, and I'm told that 1,300 of them are local Uzbeks. So just a small portion of what is essentially, an idea originating out of China. Only a small number of the total workforce is actually Chinese. Important to add some context here, perhaps. The number of countries we've been to and reported from that have at least in the past, been perceived by local populations, not in every case at all without good reason, in parts of Africa where there's weak labour laws, weak labour regulations, where Chinese companies had been accused and were sometimes found guilty of taking shortcuts with those labour laws, perhaps not providing the wages that they should have. This is a far cry from those sort of stereotypes that have built up over the years. this is very much, you know, a Chinese corporate effort, Chinese state-backed effort to put forward the best possible public face of China and its business dealings in places like Uzbekistan. So, if we are still up and running, we can only hope after that slightly chaotic wobble between venues. Here is our second company. I think again we'll have a manager with us. He speaks no English at all, so he will walk us around, and I will explain to you briefly what this company does, its name, and you know, just talk you through some of the details. Hello, sir. So this is Shen Jinlin, who, as I say, does not speak a great deal of English, but we will walk with him. He can show us around, and we can just look at the pictures as we go of this factory. So please, sir, walk us on, show us through this this factory, this complex. So let's give you a little intro here. Pengsheng Ceramics is the name of this company, the second of 16 that we're showing you. The name gives more than just a little bit away there. Pengsheng, firstly, so a company that was, you know, not a startup in its own right, didn't exist before this complex existed. Pengsheng, the namesake of the complex itself, and in fact owned by Jinsheng Trading Company, the company that actually set up this whole project. So I don't think we're talking small independent startups here. We are talking big corporate connections, you know, big state-linked, state-backed companies, and you know, this is one of them. Pengsheng Ceramics company started in 2009. It has operations all over China under a different name, but this is sort of the rebranding for the Uzbek project. And these guys set up here and started operations in 2016 in Pengsheng. So I'll be moving away from the cameraman now. You can see obviously what they do. It's a ceramics factory. This is a purely Chinese-owned company, as I was saying. And again, we'll just walk you through, I think, some of the production line. I don't know if the cameraman's going to come with us, but we can maybe just give you a little bit of an insight into how this whole process works, the production process and so on. As I say, I'll just have to sort of explain briefly what our guest here had told us earlier. I think it's probably a bit complicated to go through all of the different translations. As I was saying, we've got Mandarin, we've got English, we've got Russian, we've got Uzbek. So I think I'll just sort of walk you through the production process. Why don't we follow the tiles rather than me? You can move right off me and we can walk down here, down the tiles, and just keep walking you through. So, what Mr. Shen Jinlin, the manager here, was telling me as we were walking through this spot earlier is that, do we have an audio problem, or are we okay? No audio. Okay, we may have run out of steam here, but we'll keep going for now until we're told to stop. Move off there. Let's move off down there, have a look at the tiles. Yep. Okay, 400 people employed here, I'm told. 90% of them Uzbek. And as you can probably see from this production line, more than half of the employees of this particular company, or in fact, I think, from what the management had said earlier, 90%, more than 50% are actually female. I don't know if we've even got audio anymore, so we'll just have to sort of slightly wing it. But so this is another company, a big tiling company. Some of their products are going to the domestic Uzbek market. Some of these tiles, which are designed for bathrooms and kitchens and all different types of design. I'm told that some of the design work is done by local Uzbeks as well. Some of these are for the domestic market, roughly half on and off, up and down depending on the year. And some of them are exported mainly to China, I think, and other parts of the world for export. So, those are 2 of the 16 companies. Dropping a spade, a health and safety hazard there. arrived here recently, 2016. I'm going to thank our general manager for allowing us in and for showing us around. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. We'll keep walking, and we'll come back outside now. Okay, so we can pan over there. Female workers, everybody wave. Okay, there we are. No one's waving. Mind your feet, everybody. Okay. Mind the forklift. Chinese symbols on the forklift. Okay. So, we're just kind of wrapping up now, but I guess just one final point as we head back out into the light, if we can handle the lens there. Or perhaps, should we just sit inside the golf buggy, and as we walk back, as we drive back, I'll just wrap up. Yeah, okay. So we'll just hop back into our golf cart. You just perch on the back and I'll keep talking, or how do you want to do it? Alright. So logistically this has been a challenge. But I'll just wrap up maybe as we drive back now. Just to, I guess, explain why is this on an international news channel? Why should international viewers care about the Pengsheng Industrial Park? Relatively small in global terms, industrial park outside a Central Asian country. I think in the broader context, Uzbekistan is being seen by various big powers as a place of increasing strategic importance. It is seen as a stable country by China, by the United States, by Russia, primarily those three countries. And it is seen as a place which is ripe for investment. And essentially, these three powers have a long history, certainly Russia and originally Britain back in the 19th century, of jostling for influence in Central Asia. And of course now, partly through China's One Belt, One Road initiative, this idea of a giant economic corridor spanning all the way from China all the way to Europe, with a country like Uzbekistan being on, in the early stages of that development corridor. China is playing an increasing role here, and so it is interesting to see developments like this, where essentially, this is a Chinese company trying to put its best foot forward and try and show a Central Asian country like Uzbekistan, the most populous Central Asian country, a stable country, as I say, a country that's seen as increasingly strategically important, to try and essentially sell itself to Uzbekistan and say this is why we are worthy partners. Interesting to note that the president of Uzbekistan has just got back from the United States, where he signed a strategic partnership at the White House with US President Donald Trump. So there is this strategic rivalry taking place across Central Asia, in Uzbekistan. We've seen it, of course, in Afghanistan as well. And projects like these are a way of these various countries, and we do have big American companies like General Motors, European car companies also setting up shop here in the coming months, we understand, all of them trying to convince this Central Asian region that they are, they are the best, they are worthy partners. It is essentially a process of jostling for influence. Talking of jostling, I think we will wrap up this experimental New Media Live right there. But thank you for joining us. I hope in between the blackouts and the various technical difficulties that made sense and was relatively interesting. But this is Guy Henderson reporting from just outside Tashkent, the Uzbek capital.